Sarah adjusted her wedding dress one last time as she looked in the mirror of the bridal suite. The ivory silk cascaded perfectly around her feet, and the delicate lace sleeves hugged her arms just right. Today had been everything she dreamed of since childhood. The ceremony was flawless, the reception magical, and now she was finally Mrs. Michael Chen. The reception had ended an hour ago, but the joy still bubbled inside her chest. She could hear Michael moving around in the main room of their honeymoon suite, probably loosening his tie and taking off those formal shoes he complained about all day. They had chosen the presidential suite at the Grand Harbor Hotel, complete with a breathtaking view of the city skyline and a king-sized bed covered in rose petals. "Sarah, you almost ready?" Michael called through the door, his voice carrying that familiar warmth that made her fall in love with him 3 years ago. "Just a minute," she replied, applying one final touch of lip gloss. Her heart raced with anticipation. They had waited for this moment, choosing to save their physical intimacy for marriage. It felt old-fashioned to some of their friends, but it meant everything to both of them. She opened the bathroom door and stepped into the dimly lit bedroom. Michael had changed into a simple white shirt and dark pants, looking handsome and relaxed. Candles flickered on the nightstand, casting dancing shadows on the walls. The champagne they had brought up from the reception sat chilled in an ice bucket near the window. "You look beautiful," Michael whispered, reaching for her hands. His palms were slightly damp with nervousness, which made her smile. Even after 3 years together, he still got nervous around her sometimes. They sat on the edge of the bed, talking softly about the day. Sarah laughed as she remembered how her cousin Jenny had tripped during the ceremony, and Michael chuckled about his best man forgetting the rings in the car. The conversation flowed easily, helping them both relax into this new chapter of their lives. "I can't believe we're actually married," Sarah said, twisting the new wedding band on her finger. The diamond engagement ring sparkled above it, catching the candlelight. "I know, Mrs. Chen," Michael said with a grin, kissing her hand gently. "I love the sound of that." They opened the champagne, the cork popping with a satisfying sound that made them both laugh. Michael poured 2 glasses, and they toasted to their future together. The bubbles tickled Sarah's nose as she sipped, and she felt wonderfully dizzy with happiness. As the evening progressed, they moved closer together on the bed. Michael brushed a strand of hair from Sarah's face, his touch gentle and loving. She leaned into his palm, closing her eyes and savoring the moment she had imagined so many times. "I love you so much," she whispered. "I love you too. More than you'll ever know," he replied, his voice thick with emotion. Michael stood up and walked to his suitcase, pulling out a small wrapped box. "I have something for you. A wedding night gift." Sarah's eyes lit up with curiosity as she accepted the beautifully wrapped package. Inside was a delicate silver necklace with a heart-shaped pendant engraved with their wedding date. "Michael, it's perfect," she breathed, touching the pendant reverently. He fastened it around her neck, his fingers gentle against her skin. The necklace settled perfectly at her collarbone, and she knew she would treasure it forever. They talked more, sharing dreams about their future home, the children they wanted, and the adventures they planned to take together. Sarah felt completely at peace, surrounded by love and the promise of a lifetime together. As the night grew later, they began to move closer, their conversations becoming whispers, their touches more intimate. Sarah's heart pounded with anticipation and love as Michael held her close, stroking her hair and murmuring sweet words against her ear. "Are you ready?" he asked softly, his eyes searching hers for any sign of hesitation. "I've been ready for this my whole life," she replied honestly. Michael smiled and kissed her forehead tenderly. He stood up and began unbuttoning his shirt slowly, his eyes never leaving hers. Sarah felt her cheeks flush with warmth and excitement. This was really happening. They were finally going to become husband and wife in every sense of the word. She watched as he carefully hung his shirt in the closet, then sat back down beside her on the bed. His hands were steady now, no longer nervous. He cupped her face in his palms and kissed her deeply, pouring all his love and desire into that single moment. Sarah felt herself melting into his embrace. Every dream she had ever had about this night was coming true. The man she loved more than life itself was finally hers completely, and she was his. Nothing could ever change that now. Michael's hands moved to the delicate buttons on the back of her dress, working slowly and carefully to preserve the beautiful gown she had chosen so carefully months ago. Each button released sent a thrill through Sarah's body, bringing them closer to the moment they had both been waiting for. The city lights twinkled through the hotel window like stars, creating a romantic backdrop for their special night. Sarah could hear the faint sounds of traffic below and the distant music from another wedding reception in the hotel ballroom, but everything felt far away and unimportant compared to this perfect moment with Michael. As her dress fell away and Michael's hands explored her skin for the first time, Sarah felt completely cherished and loved. This was exactly how she had always imagined her wedding night would be: tender, romantic, and filled with the deep connection they had built over years of dating and engagement. "I'm so happy," she whispered against his lips. "So am I," Michael replied, his voice husky with emotion and desire. Little did Sarah know that within hours, her perfect wedding night would become the beginning of a nightmare that would change everything she thought she knew about the man she had just married. But in that beautiful moment, surrounded by candlelight and rose petals, she was the happiest woman alive. Sarah woke up slowly, her body warm and content under the silk sheets. Sunlight streamed through the hotel curtains, casting golden stripes across the bed where she lay alone. She stretched lazily, a smile spreading across her face as memories of the night before came flooding back. Her first night as Michael's wife had been everything she dreamed it would be. She reached across the bed, expecting to find Michael's sleeping form, but her hand touched only cool sheets. The indent where his head had rested on the pillow was still there, but he was gone. Sarah sat up listening for sounds from the bathroom, but the suite was completely quiet. "Michael?" she called out softly, pulling the sheet around herself as she got out of bed. No response came back. Sarah frowned slightly, wondering where he could have gone so early. The digital clock on the nightstand read 6:47 a.m. Maybe he had gone down to get coffee or breakfast as a surprise for her. That would be just like him, always thinking of sweet gestures to make her happy. She padded barefoot to the bathroom, still glowing from the happiness of her wedding night. The marble floor felt cool under her feet as she splashed water on her face and brushed her teeth. Her reflection showed a woman who looked thoroughly loved and content despite the early hour. When she emerged from the bathroom, she noticed Michael's phone sitting on the dresser. The screen was lit up with notifications, buzzing repeatedly with incoming messages and calls. Sarah hesitated, not wanting to invade his privacy, but the persistent buzzing made her curious. As she got closer, she could see the caller ID displayed on the screen. Amanda, work. The phone had been buzzing for several minutes with multiple missed calls and text messages. Sarah knew Amanda from the few times she had met Michael's co-workers at company parties. She was a pretty brunette from the marketing department, always friendly but perhaps a bit too touchy with Michael for Sarah's comfort. The phone stopped buzzing for a moment, then immediately started again. This time the screen showed Amanda calling once more. Sarah wondered why someone from work would be calling so urgently on a Sunday morning, especially the day after Michael's wedding. Everyone at his office knew he was getting married and would be on his honeymoon for the next week. Sarah decided to answer the phone, thinking there might be some kind of work emergency that needed Michael's attention. She had done this before, when he was in the shower or busy, and he never minded. "Hello, this is Sarah," she said, pressing the green button to accept the call. There was a moment of stunned silence on the other end, then a sharp intake of breath. "Sarah, where's Michael?" Amanda's voice sounded strained and urgent. He stepped out for a moment. "Is there some kind of emergency at work?" "I can take a message," Sarah offered, still wrapped in the bedsheet and wondering why Amanda sounded so panicked. "Work? No, Listen, I really need to talk to Michael right now. It's important. Where did he go?" Amanda's voice was getting higher, more agitated. "I'm not sure. He wasn't here when I woke up. Maybe he went to get breakfast or something. Can I help you with whatever this is about?" Sarah was starting to feel uneasy. Something in Amanda's tone didn't sound like a work-related call. "Oh, God. You don't know, do you?" Amanda whispered, and Sarah could hear what sounded like crying in the background. "Know what? Amanda, you're scaring me. What's going on?" Sarah sat down heavily on the edge of the bed, her heart beginning to race for all the wrong reasons now. I can't be the one to tell you this. Michael needs to explain. Just tell him I called, okay? Tell him Amanda called and that he needs to call me back immediately." "Wait, don't hang up," Sarah said quickly, but the line had already gone dead. Sarah stared at the phone in her hand, her mind racing. What could Amanda possibly need to tell Michael that was so urgent it couldn't wait until after his honeymoon? And why had she sounded so upset, almost guilty? She tried calling Michael's phone from the hotel room phone, but it went straight to voicemail. His cheerful recorded voice asking callers to leave a message now sounded hollow and distant to her ears. Sarah paced around the hotel room, her earlier happiness rapidly being replaced by a growing sense of dread. She tried to think of innocent explanations for Amanda's strange behavior, but none of them felt right. The urgency in Amanda's voice, the way she had said, "You don't know, do you?" It all pointed to something Sarah wasn't going to like. She checked the time again. 7:15 a.m. Michael had been gone for who knows how long. Sarah realized she had no idea when he had left the bed or where he might have gone. She had been sleeping so deeply after their wedding night that he could have left hours ago. The hotel room that had seemed so romantic and perfect the night before now felt cold and empty. The rose petals scattered across the floor looked wilted in the morning light, and the champagne glasses from their toast sat abandoned on the nightstand, looking sad and forgotten. Sarah's hands shook slightly as she picked up Michael's phone. Again. The screen showed 17 missed calls from Amanda, along with a string of text messages. Sarah knew she shouldn't read them, but her finger hovered over the message icon as curiosity and fear battled in her mind. Just then, she heard the hotel room door opening. Michael's key card beeped in the lock, and Sarah quickly set the phone, back down on the dresser, her heart pounding. "Good morning, beautiful," Michael called out as he entered, carrying a white paper bag and 2 coffee cups. "I got us some breakfast from that little cafe downstairs. I couldn't sleep, so I thought I'd surprise you." He looked normal, happy even, with no sign of whatever crisis had Amanda calling so frantically. But now Sarah noticed things she hadn't before. He was fully dressed in jeans and a t-shirt. His hair was damp as if he had showered. And there was something in his eyes that hadn't been there the night before. Something that looked almost like guilt. "Amanda's been calling you," Sarah said quietly, watching his face carefully for his reaction. Michael's smile faltered for just a moment, so briefly that Sarah almost missed it. Then it was back in place, but it looked forced now, artificial. "Amanda? From work? On a Sunday?" "That's weird," he said, setting down the coffee and breakfast bag on the small table by the window. "Did you answer?" "Yes." She sounded really upset, Michael. She said she needed to talk to you right away, that it was important. Sarah pulled the bedsheet tighter around herself, suddenly feeling very exposed and vulnerable. Probably some work crisis that feels more important than it actually is. You know how these corporate types can be, Michael said with a dismissive wave of his hand. But he was avoiding eye contact now, busying himself with unpacking the breakfast items. She said you needed to call her back immediately. She said that I didn't know something, that you needed to explain. Sarah's voice was getting smaller with each word. Michael finally looked up at her, and for just a moment, Sarah saw something in his eyes that made her stomach drop. It was fear, panic, and something that looked very much like a man who had been caught. Michael's face went completely pale as he stared at Sarah. For several long seconds, neither of them spoke. The only sound in the room was the distant hum of traffic from the street below and the quiet drip of the coffee maker in the corner. "Michael," Sarah said more firmly, wrapping the sheet around herself like armor. "What is Amanda talking about? What don't I know?" He ran his hands through his damp hair, a gesture Sarah had always found endearing before. But now it just looked like a nervous habit of someone trying to buy time. He walked to the window and stared out at the city below, his shoulders tense. "It's complicated," he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Complicated how?" Sarah's heart was beating so fast she could hear it in her ears. "Michael, we just got married yesterday. We made vows to each other. Whatever this is about, you can tell me. We're supposed to be partners now." Michael laughed, but it was a bitter sound that made Sarah's skin crawl. "Partners. Right." He turned around to face her, and Sarah was shocked to see that his eyes were red-rimmed, as if he had been crying. "I never meant for this to happen," he said. "I never meant for any of this to get so out of hand." "What to get out of hand?" "Michael, you're scaring me. Just tell me what's going on." Sarah's voice was pleading now, desperate for him to say something that would make sense of this nightmare that was unfolding. Michael walked to the dresser where his phone sat, picking it up and staring at the screen full of missed calls and messages. His thumb hovered over Amanda's contact information, but he didn't press it. "Amanda and I," he started, then stopped. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. "Amanda and I have been seeing each other." The words hit Sarah like a physical blow. She actually stumbled backward, sitting down hard on the bed as all the air seemed to leave her lungs. "Seeing each other?" she repeated, her voice sounding strange and distant to her own ears. "What does that mean exactly?" "We've been having an affair," Michael said, the words coming out in a rush now, as if saying them quickly would make them hurt less. "For about 8 months. 8 months. Sarah's mind reeled as she tried to process this information. 8 months ago, she and Michael had been deep in wedding planning. They had been picking out flowers and tasting cake samples and addressing invitations. She had been so happy, so excited about their future together, and he had been sleeping with someone else. 8 months, she repeated numbly. "Our engagement party was 8 months ago." Michael nodded miserably. "It started right after that, actually. Amanda was at the party, and we ended up talking afterward, and one thing led to another." "You've been cheating on me our entire engagement," Sarah said, the reality of it settling over her like a heavy, suffocating blanket. "While I was planning our wedding, while I was picking out my dress and booking the church and sending out invitations to all our friends and family. Sarah, I wanted to tell you so many times. I tried to break it off with Amanda, but it was complicated. She's going through a divorce, and she needed someone, and I just..." "You just what?" Sarah's voice was getting stronger now, anger beginning to replace the shock. "You just decided to have your cake and eat it too? You just decided to have me planning our perfect wedding while you screwed around with your coworker?" Michael flinched at the harshness in her voice. "It wasn't like that. I love you, Sarah. I do. I married you, didn't I?" Did you sleep with her this week? Sarah asked quietly, dreading the answer but needing to know. Michael's silence was answer. Enough. When? Sarah demanded, standing up from the bed, clutching the sheet around her like a shield. Wednesday, he whispered. At the bachelor party. Well, after. Everyone else went home, but Amanda showed up at the hotel bar and 2 days before our wedding. Sarah felt like she was going to be sick. You slept with her 2 days before our wedding. Sarah, please. It didn't mean anything, it was just physical. You're the one I love. You're the one I married. And last night? Sarah asked, her voice deadly calm now. After we made love for the first time. After we consummated our marriage. Did you sleep with her then too? Michael's face crumpled. She called me around 3 a.m. She was crying, saying she couldn't handle it anymore, that she was going to tell you if I didn't. I went to her apartment to try to calm her down, to convince her not to ruin things. And did you sleep with her? Sarah repeated. Yes. But Sarah, it was the last time. I swear it was the last time. I told her it was over, that I was married now, that things had to change. Sarah stared at him in complete disbelief. You left our wedding bed to go have sex with your mistress. Don't call her that. That's what she is, Michael, Sarah shouted, her composure finally cracking completely. She's your mistress, and you left me, your wife of less than 12 hours, sleeping alone so you could go be with her. Michael started crying then, big, ugly sobs that shook his whole body. I'm so sorry, Sarah. I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to happen. I love you so much. No, you don't, Sarah said, her voice eerily calm again. People who love each other don't do this. People who love each other don't lie and cheat and sneak around for months. People who love each other don't leave their marriage bed to go have sex with someone else. I can end it with Amanda. I already told her it was over. We can work through this, Sarah. People get past infidelity all the time. We just got married. We can make this work. Sarah walked to the closet where her wedding dress hung, still beautiful and pure white, mocking her now with its symbolism of innocence and new beginnings. She touched the delicate lace sleeves, remembering how perfect she had felt wearing it. Just yesterday, you made vows to me, she said quietly. In front of God and our families and all our friends, you promised to forsake all others. You promised to be faithful, and you broke those promises before we even left the church. Sarah, please, don't throw away our whole future over this. I made a mistake, a series of mistakes. But I want to be with you. I chose you. I married you. Sarah turned to look at him. This man she had loved so completely, had trusted so absolutely. The man she had saved herself for, who she had believed was doing the same for her. The man who had held her tenderly just hours ago while secretly planning to continue his affair. You didn't choose me, Michael, she said softly. You were just too selfish to choose at all. You wanted both of us, and you thought you could have. Both of us. You thought I was stupid enough never to find out. That's not true, isn't it? If Amanda hadn't called this morning, if she hadn't been ready to tell me herself, would you have ever told me? Would you have just kept seeing her while coming home to me every night? Michael's silence told her everything she needed to know. Sarah felt something break inside her chest, something that had been holding her together since the moment she answered Amanda's call. It wasn't her heart breaking. That had already shattered. This was something deeper, the death of the trust and innocence that had defined their entire relationship. Sarah walked to the bathroom and locked the door behind her. She needed space to think, to breathe, to figure out what to do next. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely turn on the shower. The hot water felt good against her skin, washing away the physical memory of the night before, but nothing could wash away the emotional devastation. She stood under the spray for a long time, letting herself cry for the first time since Amanda's phone call. The sobs came in waves, deep and painful, as the full reality of her situation hit her. Not only had Michael been unfaithful, but he had been carrying on a full relationship with another woman throughout their entire engagement. Every loving gesture, every romantic dinner, every time he had told her how excited he was to marry her, it had all been lies. When she finally emerged from the bathroom, wrapped in the hotel's plush robe, Michael was sitting on the edge of the bed with his head in his hands. He looked up when she came out, his eyes hopeful, as if her absence had somehow changed the fundamental facts of what he had done. "We need to talk about what happens next," Sarah said, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside her. "You mean how we're going to work through this?" Michael said quickly. "Sarah, I know you're hurt, but we can get counseling. We can go to therapy together. Lots of couples survive infidelity." Sarah stared at him in amazement. "Michael, you don't understand. This isn't just about infidelity. This is about the fact that our entire relationship has been built on lies. How can I trust anything you've ever said to me?" "Because you know me, Sarah. You know I love you." "I thought I knew you," she corrected. "But the Michael I thought I knew would never have done this. The Michael I fell in love with was honest and faithful and treated me with respect. That person apparently doesn't exist." Michael stood up and tried to move toward her, but Sarah held up a hand to stop him. "Don't," she said firmly. "Don't touch me right now." He stopped, hurt flashing across his face. "Sarah, I'm still the same person you fell in love with. I just made some terrible mistakes." "No, Michael. Good people don't make these kinds of mistakes. Good people don't systematically lie to the person they claim to love for months and months. Good people don't leave their wedding bed to go sleep with their affair partner." "So what are you saying? That you want a divorce?" "We've been married for less than 24 hours. The word divorce hung in the air between them like a physical thing. Sarah had never imagined she would be having this conversation, especially not in a honeymoon suite still decorated with rose petals from the night before. "I don't know what I want yet," she said honestly. "I need time to think. I need to figure out how to even process this." "Time? Sarah, we're supposed to fly to Hawaii tomorrow for our honeymoon. We have 2 weeks planned together. Can't we use that time to work things out? You want me to go on my honeymoon with you after you spent last night with another woman?" Sarah's voice rose again, incredulous at his suggestion. "I want us to have a chance to talk without all the distractions of home. I want to be able to focus on fixing this, on proving to you that I'm committed to our marriage. Michael, listen to yourself. You're talking about fixing this like it's a broken appliance. You destroyed the foundation of our relationship. You made me look like a fool in front of everyone we know." As if summoned by her words, Sarah's phone started ringing. The caller ID showed her maid of honor, Jessica, probably calling to check in on how the wedding night had gone. Sarah couldn't imagine having that conversation right now. "Don't answer it," Michael said quickly. "Why not?" Sarah asked, though she had no intention of answering anyway. "Because you're upset right now, and you might say things you'll regret later when we've worked through this." "Things I'll regret?" Sarah repeated slowly. "Michael, I'm not the one who should be worried about regret right now." The phone stopped ringing, but almost immediately started again. This time it was Sarah's mother, then her sister, then Jessica again. Word was clearly getting out somehow, and Sarah realized with horror that people were probably calling to congratulate them on their new marriage. "I can't deal with this right now," Sarah said, turning off her phone completely. "I can't pretend to be a happy newlywed when my husband was cheating on me through our entire engagement." "Then let's leave," Michael said desperately. "Let's go away somewhere, just the two of us, where no one can bother us. We can work through this together." "Together?" Sarah laughed bitterly. "We're not in this together, Michael. You created this situation all by yourself. You made these choices all by yourself. And now you want me to help you fix the mess you made? I want you to fight for our marriage. I want you to remember that we love each other. Do we, though? Because I loved who I thought you were. And if you loved me, you never would have done this to me in the first place. Michael was quiet for a long moment, staring at the floor. When he looked up again, his eyes were filled with tears. But there was something else there, too. Something that looked almost like anger. "So you're just going to give up?" he asked. "Just throw away 3 years together because I made some mistakes?" "Mistakes?" Sarah's voice was dangerously quiet. "Is that what you're calling this? Mistakes? Poor choices, then. Whatever you want to call them. The point is, I'm here now, trying to make it right. I'm choosing you, Sarah. I chose you when I married you yesterday." "You chose me?" Sarah's composure finally snapped completely. "You chose me? Michael? You had sex with another woman 12 hours ago. While I was sleeping in our marriage bed, dreaming about our future together, you were across town screwing. Your coworker. That's not choosing me. That's trying to have everything you want without consequences. It's not like that. It's exactly like that," Sarah shouted. "You wanted to keep me as your safe choice, your respectable wife, while having your fun with Amanda on the side. You probably told her I was frigid, didn't you? That I was saving myself for marriage, so she was doing you a favor?" Michael's face told her she had hit the mark, and Sarah felt sick all over again. "Oh, God," she whispered. "You did. You told her about our decision to wait, and you made it sound like I was some kind of prude while she was the exciting one who could give you what I couldn't." "Sarah, that's not how it was." "How was it then, Michael? Explain to me how it was. Explain to me how you justified lying to my face every single day for 8 months. Explain to me how you stood at the altar yesterday and made vows you had already broken. Explain to me how you made love to me last night and then got up and went to her." Michael opened his mouth to respond, but no words came out. For the first time since this conversation started, he seemed to understand the magnitude of what he had done. "I can't," he said finally. "I can't explain it because there is no explanation that makes it okay." It was the first honest thing he had said all morning, and somehow that made Sarah feel even worse. Sarah walked to the window and stared out at the city below. People were going about their normal Sunday routines, walking dogs, heading to brunch, living their uncomplicated lives. She envied them all. 24 hours ago, she had been the happiest woman alive. Now she felt like her entire world had collapsed. "I need you to leave," she said quietly, still looking out the window. "Leave? Sarah, this is our honeymoon suite. We booked it together. I need space to think, and I can't do that with you here." She turned to face him. "Please, Michael, just give me some time alone." "Where am I supposed to go?" "I don't know." "Call one of your groomsmen. Go stay with your brother. Figure it out." Sarah's voice was tired now, drained of all the anger that had been sustaining her. Michael started gathering his things slowly, as if moving in slow motion would somehow prevent this from happening. He packed his suitcase carefully, and Sarah noticed he was taking only his clothes, leaving behind all the wedding gifts and mementos they had brought up to the room. "What should I tell people?" he asked as he zipped up his bag. "Everyone's going to be expecting updates from our honeymoon." "Tell them whatever you want," Sarah said. "Tell them the truth or make up another lie. You seem to be good at that." Michael winced. "Sarah, I know you hate me right now, but please don't make any permanent decisions while you're this upset. Promise me you won't do anything drastic." "Drastic?" Sarah turned to stare at him. "Michael, you cheated on me throughout our entire engagement and then left our wedding bed to sleep with your mistress. I think you're the one who's been making drastic decisions." "I mean about our marriage. Don't file for divorce or anything while you're emotional. Give yourself time to calm down and think rationally about this." Sarah couldn't believe what she was hearing. "Rationally? You want me to think rationally about the fact that my husband of one day has been systematically betraying me for 8 months? I want you to remember that we built something together over 3 years. I want you to remember that we have a whole life planned together. A house we were going to buy, children we wanted to have, dreams we shared. Those dreams were based on lies, Michael. Every single one of them. They don't have to be. We can still have all of that. We can still have the life we planned. Sarah stared at him, wondering if he truly didn't understand what he had destroyed, or if he was just so desperate that he was willing to say anything to try to fix this. Michael, answer me honestly. If Amanda hadn't called this morning, what were you planning to do? He was quiet for a long moment, staring at his hands. I was hoping to end things with her gradually without you ever having to know about it. So you were planning to keep lying to me. I was planning to protect you from getting hurt unnecessarily. Protect me? Sarah's voice rose again. You were planning to protect me by continuing to betray me while lying to my face about it? I was trying to do the right thing. The right thing would have been to never cheat on me in the first place, or to tell me about it before we got married so I could make an informed decision about whether I still wanted to marry you, or to end things with Amanda months ago instead of stringing both of us along. Michael shouldered his suitcase and walked toward the door. He paused with his hand on the handle, turning back to look at her one more time. I love you, Sarah. I know you don't believe that right now, but I do. I love you more than I've ever loved anyone. If this is what your love looks like, Michael, then I don't want it. He left without another word, and Sarah heard his footsteps echoing down the hallway as he walked toward the elevators. She waited until she was sure he was gone before she finally allowed herself to collapse. She sank onto the bed where they had made love just hours before and cried harder than she had ever cried in her life. The sobs came from somewhere deep inside her, a place she didn't even know existed. They were the kind of tears that left her gasping for breath, that made her whole body shake with the force of her grief. After what felt like hours, Sarah's tears finally subsided into quiet hiccups. She felt empty, hollowed out, like someone had reached inside her and removed everything that made her who she was. The woman who had walked down the aisle yesterday, radiant with joy and love, felt like a stranger now. Her phone had been buzzing constantly, even though she had turned the ringer off. Sarah finally picked it up and saw dozens of missed calls and text messages. Her mother, her sister, her best friends, Michael's family. Everyone wanted to know how the wedding night had been, how married life was treating her so far. One text. Message from her sister Kate made her stomach clench. Mom says you're not answering your phone. Everything okay? How's married life treating you, Mrs. Chen? Mrs. Chen. The name that had made her so happy yesterday now felt like a mockery. Sarah stared at it on the screen, wondering if she would keep it or go back to her maiden name. The thought of having to explain to everyone why she was changing her name back after one day of marriage made her feel sick all over again. There was also a message from Michael, sent about an hour after he left. I'm staying at my brother's place. I'll give you all the space you need, but please don't shut me out completely. I love you. Sarah deleted the message without responding. She realized she was hungry. They had never eaten the breakfast Michael brought back that morning, and she hadn't eaten anything since the wedding cake the night before. But the thought of food made her nauseous. The thought of doing anything normal, like eating or showering or getting dressed, felt impossible. Instead, she called room service and ordered a bottle of wine. When it arrived 30 minutes later, she ignored the concerned look the hotel staff member gave her when she answered the door in her bathrobe with red, swollen eyes. Sarah sat by the window with the wine, watching the city below and trying to figure out what to do next. The practical questions were overwhelming. They had a house they were supposed to close on next month, joint bank accounts they had opened together, a honeymoon trip to Hawaii that was supposed to start tomorrow, wedding, gifts to return, a whole life they had built together that now lay in ruins. But even more overwhelming were the emotional questions. How had she been so blind? Had there been signs she missed? Had Michael's friends and co-workers known about Amanda? Had people been pitying her at the wedding, knowing what she didn't know? She thought about all the nights Michael had worked late, over the past 8 months. All the business trips that might not have been business trips. All the times he had been on his phone, smiling at messages she assumed were work-related. How many of those had been from Amanda? The wine helped numb the immediate pain, but it couldn't touch the deeper hurt. Sarah had saved herself for marriage, believing that Michael was doing the same. She had trusted him completely, never once doubting his faithfulness. The betrayal felt like more than just adultery. It felt like the theft of her entire belief system about love and relationships. As evening approached, Sarah's phone rang again. This time it was Jessica, her maid of honor, and Sarah knew she couldn't avoid her forever. Jessica would just keep calling. Or worse, she might show up at the hotel. "Hello," Sarah answered, her voice hoarse from crying. "Sarah, finally! I've been calling you all day. How's the honeymoon suite? How was your first night as Mrs. Chen?" Jessica's voice was bright and excited, full of the happiness Sarah had felt. Just that morning, Sarah opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. How could she possibly explain what had happened? "Sarah, are you there? Is everything okay?" "Jessica," Sarah managed to say, her voice cracking on her friend's name. "Oh,
My God, what's wrong? Sarah, you're scaring me.
are you hurt? Is Michael hurt?" "Michael," Sarah started, then stopped. She took a deep breath and tried again. "Michael has been having an affair." The silence on the other end of the line stretched for so long that Sarah wondered if the call had been dropped. "What?" Jessica finally whispered. "For 8 months, throughout our entire engagement, with a woman from his work." The words came out flat, emotionless, as if Sarah was reading someone else's story. "Oh my God. Oh, Sarah, are you sure? Maybe there's been some misunderstanding." He admitted it. "He left our bed last night to go sleep with her." Jessica was quiet again, and Sarah could hear her sharp intake of breath. "He left your wedding bed?" She called this morning, threatening to tell me if he didn't. That's how I found out. "Sarah, honey, where are you? Are you alone? Do you want me to come
Get you?
For the first time all day, Sarah felt a spark of something other than pain. Gratitude. Jessica didn't ask for details or suggest that maybe they could work it out. She just offered to come, to be there, to help. "I'm at the hotel still." Michael left. I don't know what to do." "I'm coming to get you right now. Pack whatever you need. You're not staying there tonight." "Jess, you don't have to." "Yes, I do. You're my best friend and you shouldn't be alone right now. I'll be there in an hour." After Jessica hung up, Sarah felt the first tiny bit of relief she had experienced. All day. She wouldn't have to spend the night in this room that held so many memories of last night's betrayal. She wouldn't have to stare at the rose petals and empty champagne glasses and remember how happy she had been just hours before. Sarah packed a small bag with clothes for a few days, leaving behind the beautiful negligées she had bought for her honeymoon and the wedding gifts they had brought up to the room. She couldn't bear to touch any of it right now. As she waited for Jessica to arrive, Sarah looked at herself in the bathroom mirror one more time. The woman staring back at her looked like she had aged years in a single day. Her eyes were red and swollen, her skin pale and blotchy from crying. But underneath the obvious signs of devastation, Sarah thought she could see something else beginning to emerge. It was small and fragile, barely there at all, but it looked like strength. 3 months later, Sarah sat in her lawyer's office, signing the final divorce papers. The pen felt heavy in her hand as she wrote her signature for the last time as Sarah Chen. Tomorrow she would legally be Sarah Matthews again, but she felt like a completely different person than the woman who had carried that name before her marriage. The divorce had been surprisingly quick and straightforward. Michael hadn't contested anything, perhaps out of guilt, or maybe because he knew he had no ground to stand on. Sarah got to keep the engagement ring, though she had already sold it and donated the money to a women's shelter. She kept most of their joint savings, the wedding gifts, and her dignity. "That's it," her lawyer said, gathering up the papers. "You're officially divorced as of today. The decree will be filed with the court this afternoon." Sarah nodded, feeling oddly calm. She had expected this moment to be more emotional, but mostly she just felt relieved. The nightmare was finally, officially over. Walking out of the lawyer's office into the bright autumn sunshine, Sarah reflected on how much her life had changed in just 3 months. After leaving the hotel that terrible Sunday morning, she had stayed with Jessica for 2 weeks while she figured out her next steps. The hardest part had been telling her family and friends what had happened. Her mother had cried more than Sarah did when she heard the news. Her father had asked if he should go have a conversation with Michael, using the tone that suggested the conversation might involve his fists. Her sister Kate had immediately started researching the best divorce attorneys in the city, but it was Jessica who had said exactly what Sarah needed to hear. "You deserve so much better than this, and I'm proud of you for not settling for less." The wedding gifts had been the most awkward part. Sarah had spent a week returning crystal vases and kitchen appliances to stores, explaining over and over that the wedding hadn't worked out. Some salespeople were sympathetic, others were nosy, and a few were downright rude about the return policy. But Sarah got through it, one returned gift at a time. Michael had tried to contact her multiple times during the divorce proceedings. He sent flowers with notes begging for another chance. He showed up at her new apartment twice before she threatened to get a restraining order. He even tried to get Jessica and other mutual friends to intervene on his behalf. The worst attempt had been when he sent her a 5-page letter detailing how he had ended things with Amanda and was going to therapy to work on his issues. He wrote about how sorry he was, how much he loved her, how they could start fresh if she would just give him one more chance. Sarah had read the letter once, then burned it in her fireplace. She was done giving Michael chances he didn't deserve. She had heard through mutual friends that Michael and Amanda were still together, despite his claims of ending things. Apparently, they had moved in together about a month after the divorce was filed. Sarah felt sorry for Amanda, knowing that if Michael had cheated on his wife, he would eventually cheat on his girlfriend too. But that was no longer her problem. The Hawaii honeymoon trip had been the one thing Sarah couldn't bear to cancel completely. Instead, she had changed the tickets and taken Jessica with her. They had spent 10 days on the beach, drinking Mai Tais and talking through everything that had happened. It had been exactly what Sarah needed to start healing. Now, 3 months later, Sarah was living in a small but beautiful apartment downtown, working at a new job she loved and slowly rebuilding her life. She had started seeing a therapist, too, work through the trust issues and emotional trauma from Michael's betrayal. It was hard work, but she was learning to believe in herself again. The dating question came up a lot from well-meaning friends and family. "When are you going to start dating again? You're young and beautiful. You shouldn't let one bad experience ruin relationships for you. There are plenty of good men out there." Sarah always smiled and changed the subject. The truth was, she wasn't ready to trust anyone with her heart again yet. Maybe someday she would be. But for now, she was focusing on healing and building a life she loved as a single woman. She had also started volunteering at the women's shelter where she had donated her engagement ring money. Working with women who had survived much worse betrayals and abuse put her own experience in perspective. She was lucky. She had discovered Michael's true nature before they had children together, before they had bought a house, before she had wasted years of her life on someone who didn't deserve her. As Sarah walked home from the lawyer's office, her phone buzzed with a text message. For a split second, her heart raced, thinking it might be Michael trying to contact her again. But it was just Jessica, asking how the final court date had gone. "It's done," Sarah texted back. Officially divorced. Want to celebrate with dinner? Tonight? Absolutely. I'll bring champagne. We're celebrating your freedom. Sarah smiled, thinking about how different this celebration would be from the champagne toast she and Michael had shared on their wedding night. That toast had been about the beginning of what she thought would be a lifelong partnership. Tonight's toast would be about her independence, her strength, and her future. She had learned so much about herself over the past 3 months. She had learned that she was stronger than she ever knew. She had learned that she could survive having her, heartbroken and her trust shattered. She had learned that she didn't need a man to complete her or make her happy. Most importantly, she had learned that she would never again settle for someone who didn't treat her with the love and respect she deserved. The Sarah who had walked down the aisle 3 months ago had been naive and trusting, willing to overlook red flags because she wanted so badly to believe in her fairy tale romance. The Sarah walking home today was wiser, stronger, and more confident. She knew her worth now, and she would never let anyone make her feel small or foolish again. As she reached her apartment building, Sarah looked up at the windows of her new home. It was small and simple, nothing like the dream house she and Michael had planned to buy together. But it was hers, paid for with her own money, decorated with her own taste, filled with her own dreams. That night, as Sarah and Jessica raised their champagne glasses in her living room, Sarah felt something she hadn't felt since that terrible Sunday morning in the hotel. Genuine happiness. To new beginnings, Jessica said. To new beginnings, Sarah agreed, and meant it with every fiber of her being. She was finally free to write her own story, and this time she was going to make sure it had a much better ending.